Hi, welcome to the channel. Welcome back if you are a current subscriber. I decided not to scrap the Elizabeth Smart analysis after all. I will say there is some troubling aspects to this interview, and there will be a lot of jump cuts because there are parts of this particular interview that are not relevant, that do not allow me to analyze her actual body language. This is one of her most recent interviews. She was kidnapped when she was a teenager, and her kidnappers have since been charged and found guilty and admitted to doing the things that she states has been done in this interview. But as usual, I will be analyzing what we see that could perhaps be deceptive if we did not know what we know now, or what is honest, how she feels about this entire situation, and just what we can observe. Now, this particular video comes from a channel called Biography. As usual, I will leave the full video in the description box below. Let's get started.
Of your family. If you ever do or say anything I don't want you to do, that threat just seemed so real to me that if I spoke out, he'd kill me. The detective wanted to see my face, but Mitchell just kept on falling back on the only people that will ever see her face in her lifetime are me, her father, and her husband. And while all this was going on, there was just this raging battle inside me, because on the one hand, I mean, here's a detective like feet away from me. He's just right there.
Right off the bat, what we see is real grief muscles, real downward glabella furrowing there that we should see in situations that are potentially traumatic. We normally don't see an uplifting of features because that would not make sense. We're not happy, hopeful, surprised, or anything that would cause us to feel uplifted and thus be uplifted non-verbally. We're seeing no micro expressions of duper's delight or anything that could indicate she's being deceptive here. What we are seeing are some hints of disgust and contempt, a slight bit of mouth tugging. That could also be disagreement or discomfort around this situation, which is understandable. And then as she's discussing what other people have been saying, there's a slight eyebrow flash there as she's attempting to emphasize, but she is not fully committed to emphasizing that, as that is not her own story there that she's telling. She's not giving her own personal point of view, just what others have said, which I did find interesting because typically survivors of this sort of thing can only give their point of view and maybe what has been told to them, but there's almost never that subtle eyebrow flashing there that's not fully committed. It isn't an indication of deception. We're not seeing a cluster there of nonverbal behaviors that indicate she's not being completely honest. We do see a high blink rate when she starts saying that she had been told that she would be killed and her family would be killed if she made any noise. Again, that makes sense. There's some aversion there, some stress there. We usually do see rapid eye blinking when someone is under a lot of stress. Now, sometimes that could mean deception, as someone might not necessarily need to be stressed under certain situations, and there's just a note of discomfort there. It doesn't fully mean that that person is being deceptive. There has to be a cluster of at least 3 behaviors usually that indicate some deception. We're not really seeing that. We see her chin go down. In other instances, when people are being deceptive, their chin would stay up or go up even, and not down in guilt or shame. That would be more understandable in a traumatic situation such as this.
What if I did say something? What if I did do something and the police officer didn't believe me? What if I'd probably never see the light of day again? At that moment in time, I remember just feeling like he really will kill me if I say something. He really will kill my family if I say something. Nobody stopped him from kidnapping me. Don't do anything that's going to jeopardize your life. Don't do anything that's going to jeopardize your family's life. But this is a trained officer. He's going to see through it. It's going to be okay. Mitchell just kept on falling back on, I'm sorry, that would be against our religion, and was so convincing that the detective finally did turn away. As the police officer walked away, I thought, I should have screamed. I should have yelled. Maybe I would have been rescued. Seeing him walk away just kind of felt like the last nail in the lid on my coffin. Had I been rescued at the library, that would have saved me about 6 months of captivity.
Now, there's this positive tonality that appears here and there that seems deceptive, seems like it could be Duper's delight. Now, Duper's delight is usually more a micro expression, more a tiny smirk in the corner of one side of the face. She's not actually fully smiling. She does not have the right muscles contracting in the orbicularis. This perhaps, just my theory, just my belief here, what we're seeing is someone who is used to perhaps giving a testimony. I have read that there is a religious aspect to her life, particularly the Church of the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, and they give fast and testimony on some Sundays, and this is what we would typically see, someone trying to offer hope or maybe a hint of absurdity, make it a bit of a lighter tonality than what it is to not disturb the congregation. Now, that's not fully necessary, but that is typically what people may do when telling stories like this during testimony, and that's perhaps what we're seeing, someone accustomed to doing that sort of thing. So we see what looks like positive tonality, but it's not a genuine smile and it's not a smirk. It's not Duper's delight. It's not a dopamine release when she's being deceptive and believes that she's fooling other people. And again, we see the downward glabella furrowing where we should see it right now. Even as she tells us there's no uplifting of features aside from this seeming smile across the bottom half of her face that again is not genuine, is not her feeling happy. Her chin in fact is down, and there's that bit of guilt or shame that protecting that vulnerable part of her body. This is not defensive. Obviously she's not feeling defensive, but a tone of perhaps absurdity as she describes a police officer walking away, someone going away that could have saved her life. And she says that that was the final nail on her coffin. Throughout this, otherwise, we see, again, the downward glabella furrowing there, those muscles in between the eyebrows, and her chin going downwards. Some rapid blinking here and there, obvious and understandable stress in this particular situation. And while we don't see genuine fear here, she has described this very situation repeatedly over time, and in beginning interviews, she seems to have more negative tonality, more distress, and more fear in the situation. So a lot of this that we're seeing now is her having told the story so much over time that she's taken time to process this. Perhaps she's had therapy, I'm not sure personally, but she's processed this in some way. This has happened a long time ago, and she's now capable of more confidently telling the story, though I would not say that she's very confident. She's not telling this with an upward, again, uplifting of features. She's not telling this in excitement or in neutrality. She's just telling us the situation. And we're seeing a lot of downward glabella furrowing, grief, and stress where we should see it.
But then it started raining. We got up and we ran outside and we caught the rain in tarps. I remember just being so grateful for that rainwater, and even a couple days after when it looked like there was stuff growing in the water, I was still so grateful for it. And all of a sudden, we hear singing, off key, off tune. And he's got leftover KFC, and he sits down and he starts talking, and both Wanda and I could hardly sit up. We're so hungry. Then how the next morning the police came and he had to go through booking, and they ran his fingerprints and nothing came up, and how he gave him this fake name, and how they then said, well, it's going to be about a week before he could go before the judge. He said, and although it was comfortable and I was well fed and had a roof over my head, it was a reminder that I need to remember who I am, and I need to remember who you are. And then he continued down his usual, oh, you're this, you're that, blah, blah, blah. And without everything that he'd say, you need to experience this, you need to descend below this before you can rise above it.
I apologize for the cinematics, of course, but we do see more of a positive tonality here as she describes a potentially more hopeful moment. She starts describing something that's more of a perhaps happier moment where it started raining. She didn't expect that. There's a tone of disbelief a bit there as her eyebrows raise. Her chin is up, but not in a challenging, very confident way, more in a hopeful uplifting of features. As she tells an actual part that is more hopeful. She had been dehydrated with these people and starving, and then suddenly it starts raining. They're catching it in tarps. Suddenly someone arrives with food, and it's a more hopeful moment. Now, this isn't something I would typically believe would take place, but of course her entire story is something pretty absurd. And so these hints of disbelief, skepticism, absurdity, and what took place even in her own story and her own experience can creep up as the entire thing did in fact seem absurd, completely out of the ordinary, something that would not typically take place. But we're not seeing nonverbal cues that indicate she's being deceptive in this moment. No smirks, no micro expressions that we should not see here. There's no disgust and contempt, as this would not be a situation where she would feel disgust and contempt about the situation. And again, we're seeing eyebrow flashes there where we should see it, and absurdity in situations that were a bit unbelievable, but have since been proven that this has taken place, that she is not being deceptive. There's no eye blocking there, a blink that's longer than it should be. There's nothing there that shows a aversion from what she's telling us, that would otherwise indicate that she's not telling us the truth. I'm going to end this here. Hopefully this has been a bit helpful. I'm sorry it's short and there are jump cuts everywhere, but please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching.